Happy Monday, Dan here with news that doesn't suck. Today we have the death of a Kentucky horse shower brings some wicked backlash. Now, I'm going to need your help at the end here because I don't quite understand how we can help fix this problem. We'll get to that a little bit later, but what can we do? Battle was lost. Racehorse's death brings demands for accountability. Josh Peter, Weekend Edition, USA Today, May 3rd through 5th, 2019. The prize racehorse stood on three legs inside an equine ambulance. It was almost 8 a.m., February 23rd, and a heightened state of concern permeated Santa Anita Park. Less than 2 months into the winter meet, 19 horses had died on the racetrack, spurring protests by animal rights activists and fear over what might come next. Here was Battle of Midway, weeks after emerging as a possible favorite for the world's richest horse race, the $12 million Dubai World Cup on March 30th, standing in an ambulance with one hind leg cocked into the air. The 5-year-old horse had lost his footing during a workout, was pulled up by his exercise rider, and loaded into an ambulance with his fate uncertain. Page turn. Jennifer Finley, the attending veterinarian, began examining the injured leg of a horse that, by tradition, she'd already seen that day. Every morning, Battle of Midway was the first horse Finley visited. He was her favorite, and not just for the moxie he showed on the track. Battle of Midway had long, donkey ears he liked rubbed, stuck out his tongue as if it were an act of mischief, and, when he was a foal, once pulled fan wires out of electrical sockets. At the end of each day, Finley fed Battle of Midway an apple and marveled as he took perfect bites. Not on February 23rd. Finley led Battle of Midway to the Equine Hospital's radiology room. When images of his x-rays flashed onto a screen, Finley burst into tears. The bone above the hoof in one of Battle of Midway's hind legs was shattered. Because horses must be able to stand on all four legs, the horse could not be saved. So he became part of a growing controversy and an investigation occurring as the sport moves into its Triple Crown season with Saturday's Kentucky Derby. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office launched an investigation into the horse deaths at Santa Anita that will hinge in part on how California authorities handle the deaths of racehorses. After being euthanized, Battle of Midway was transported to the University of California, Davis, where by state protocol he underwent a necropsy. The district attorney's office is keeping those results confidential during the inquiry, so it's uncertain if they will yield answers to the following questions. How is it that Battle of Midway was healthy enough to win 3 of his last 4 races, yet broke down during a routine workout? Should anyone be held accountable for the death of Battle of Midway, one of 23 horses that have died on the track during the winter meet at Santa Anita and one of hundreds that die at U.S. tracks every year? Jerry Hollendorfer, the Hall of Fame trainer who handled Battle of Midway, declined to comment. Flavian Prat, who was Battle of Midway's regular jockey, did not respond to an interview request made through his agent. Elliot Walden, president and CEO of racing operations for Windstar Farm, a group that co-owned Battle of Midway, declined a request for interview. No central authority. Victoria Keith, who has spent almost 20 years in horse racing and works for the man who bought, then sold Battle of Midway, said she is fed up with the status quo. It's time to hold trainers accountable, she said. I want to work towards there being rules and punishment for those constantly over the average in breakdowns, she said, referring to deaths. That has never been regulated in any way. Each state involved in horse racing has created its own governing body and enacted its own rules, and the sport has no central authority. That is truly the issue, Keith said. With the backing of a prominent horse owner, Rick Porter, she has a plan to effect change. Keith is the executive vice president of Fox Hill Farm, owned by Porter, who purchased Battle of Midway as a yearling. Last year, Porter formed the National Thoroughbred Welfare Organization, NTWO, which addresses aftercare for racehorses, many of which end up in slaughterhouses. Keith, in her role with the NTWO, says she intends to collect data that will identify trainers associated with an abnormally high rate of racehorse deaths. One of horse racing's fiercest critics, Patrick Batuolo, who documents horse deaths on his website, horseracingwrongs.com, said focusing on specific trainers obscures the fundamental problem. This industry has been killing horses since the beginning, he said. Let's not pretend this is something that just recently happened. So when you ask, how come they're not trying to identify wayward trainers? My answer is industry members are all complicit. The Jockey Club, a thoroughbred industry organization, reported 493 horses in the USA died from racing-related injuries in 2018. Batullo said the number of deaths across all breed each year is about 2,000. That's a lot. Battle of Midway's fate helps illustrate the discrepancy. The horse will not be included in the Jockey Club's 2019 death count because he died after getting injured in training. The Jockey Club tracks fatal injuries of thoroughbreds that occurred during an official race, as reported by veterinary officials, and includes horses that succumb to a race-related injury within 72 hours after race day, according to the organization's website. Batullo said as many racehorses die in training as in races. He said he expects little to come from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's investigation. Typically, what happens in any animal exploitation industry is that the law defers to common industry practice, he said. And common industry practice in horse racing has been use of various drugs, whipping, running horses before they're physically mature. So there is not going to be any accountability from outside of the industry. The industry is left to police itself. Rick Arthur, equine medical director for the California Horse Racing Board, CHRB, shares Batullo's doubts for anyone being held accountable or responsible for the 23 deaths, but for a different reason. For the most part, frankly, there is very little evidence of regulation violation or any law violated, he said. You would have a hard time proving anybody did anything wrong. Jackie Lacey. Sorry, this story is pretty crazy. Jackie Lacey, the Los Angeles County District Attorney, has offered no comment since announcing the creation of a task force to conduct the investigation. An endearing commodity. As is nearly any thoroughbred, Battle of Midway, on one level, was nothing more than a commodity to be bought, sold, and managed in pursuit of a profit. The horse changed hands twice, was the subject of an insurance payoff, and earned his various owners more than $1.5 million in purse money. But Battle of Midway endeared himself to his handlers and racing fans with a compelling story on and off the track. Sired by Smart Strike, a graded stakes winning stallion, and out of Rigoletta, a graded stakes winning mare, he was expected to sell for up to $800,000 at the Fasig-Tipton Saratoga Select Yearling sale in 2015. But veterinarians found a small defect in one of his knees. Damaged goods. Porter, a war veteran looking for a Kentucky Derby contender, paid $410,000 for the brown colt with the black mane and named him Battle of Midway. The ensuing battle looked bleak. Porter was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma. While undergoing chemotherapy, he had given up on his chances of survival, and only 4 races into Battle of Midway's career, given up on his hopes of the horse developing into a champion. Weeks before the 2017 Kentucky Derby, Porter accepted an offer from Don Alberto Stable and Windstar Farm for Battle of Midway, then watched the deal hit a snag. 2 veterinarians found inflammation in the horse's knees. My estimate is that he would probably make it through the Triple Crown, but not through the season without his knees being a factor. Although there is no permanent damage at the present time, the effect on the rest of the year is a major factor in estimating this horse's future, veterinarian Larry Bromledge wrote in an email that was read to USA Today by Keith, who works for Porter. His knees need to be followed, and at some point he needs to stop to heal before he does permanent damage. To Porter's surprise, Don Alberto Stable and Windstar Farm still wanted the horse. The deal was completed at a price that Porter said was less than the original figure, but still more than $1 million. He declined to be more specific, and the sale was not publicly recorded. At the Kentucky Derby, as a 37-1 long shot, Battle of Midway changed his trajectory. He finished 3rd. The new owners did not enter him in the Preakness Stakes or the Belmont Stakes, the final 2 legs of the Triple Crown. But he had no more than 7 weeks off between any of his next 5 races, which included a victory in the $1 million Las Vegas Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile in November of 2017. Looking to cash in, the horse's owners put Battle of Midway out to stud on a farm in Lexington, Kentucky. He mated with 60 mares, impregnated only 5, and was declared subfertile. Having insured Battle of Midway against subfertility, according to bloodhorse.com, the owners received an insurance payment, and Battle of Midway temporarily became property of the insurance company. Don Alberto and Windstar bought him back and put him back on the track. He quickly rounded into form, won 3 of his last 4 races, and upon his death, further stoked the controversy. Changes at Santa Anita. The same day in which Finley euthanized Battle of Midway, she left flowers with red apples inside his stall. That stall was still empty March 3rd, with animal rights activists gathered outside Santa Anita track. 3 days later, after the death of yet another horse, the Stronach Group, which owns Santa Anita Park and tracks elsewhere throughout the country, shut down the dirt racing surface and said experts would be brought in to investigate. Racing resumed a little more than 3 weeks later. Another horse died during training. Soon after the track reopened for racing, the horse death count reached 23 when Arms Runner suffered a fatal injury after colliding with another horse. Changes came. The track's owners abolished the use of whips except for safety reasons, reduced the amount of maximum allowable dosage of Lasix, a medication to prevent bleeding in the horse's lungs that is used by almost every U.S. thoroughbred, pledged to improve diagnosing pre-existing conditions in horses that could lead to injuries, and regular evaluating of the track that some trainers said became unsafe during the first 2 months of the winter meet because of excessive rain. The rain stopped, the rules took effect, and not a single horse has died over the last month. In response to an inquiry from USA Today, the Stronach Group issued a statement that said in part, "Last month, the Stronach Group, together with our industry partners in California, took the bold and necessary steps to begin to modernize and reform our sport for the betterment of horse and rider welfare. This industry-led initiative successfully gained approval on California's regulatory body for horse racing, the California Horse Racing Board, CHRB. While steeped in both history and tradition, the sport needs to modernize in a way that prioritizes the health and safety of horses and athletes first and foremost. As the DA's investigation goes on, questions remain unanswered about the deaths of horses, including that of Battle of Midway. At this point, I honestly do not know of any reason to believe that there was any other reason other than just a tragic situation, a tragic accident," David Nash, a longtime veterinarian, said before adding, "I think the jury is still out." We need your help on this one. Well, those of you that enjoy horse racing, what do you do? I mean, nobody really cares what I think. So, like, if I write a letter, I don't think that it'll do anything. Writing letters, signing petitions, those that can, those that have the reach, party on. But what do we do with our money? Like, how do we go about rewarding the trainers and racers, what have you, that are doing things right? How do we help? I know I have plenty of friends that were watching the race and were all about it this weekend. I've got quite a few friends in Louisville, and probably half of the people that I know would be just crazily surprised by hearing about 2,000 deaths a year from training. I mean, what do we do about this? How do we fix this part of our culture? Update it. I'm out of ideas, so you guys give me a hand. Let me know what you think. This is not an easy subject, but it is one that we can probably do something about. And normally, your news doesn't have to make you sad if you watch news that doesn't suck. Have a better than good day.